Good afternoon and welcome to today's Thursday Thought. Writer, wife, mom, and my friend Kendra Brookheis, in her monthly newsletter called Present Tense, writes a piece this month called The Tension Between Art and Excess. In that article, she speaks of the great disparity that is often seen between those who have and those who have not, and what the Christian response should be in those situations. Now, I've edited some of the post that she wrote, and I'll read it for you, and then I'll discuss it briefly following my reading of her text. Here's what she said in her monthly newsletter. 12 years ago, I told my friend I couldn't imagine painting our house. Buying paint, rollers, and tape for the sole purpose of making a few rooms look pretty was just too frivolous. A waste of money that could be given to the poor. Well, my husband and I were living in Guatemala at that time, and for us, part of expatriate life was constantly processing how some people in this world lived with so much, while others suffered with so little. We wanted solutions, ones as simple as a math problem. If we would only subtract excess from our lives and add it to the needs of the people around us, maybe we would finally scratch the surface of some of the world's ills. Well, the house I was talking about painting with my friend was theoretical until 7 years ago, when we bought the one that our family lives in today. The reason I force myself to think about the tensions of my faith in this newsletter every month is because my brain tends to jump to extremes. I believe that's partly from the conditioning of living in environments with varying levels of poverty. When the need that's around you is extreme, she says, a lot of possessions, activities, opportunities, and yes, even the art of painting walls start to seem like unnecessary excess. Like an Ecclesiastes mantra, everything is meaningless. And she goes on. In Guatemala, for example, our elderly friends lived in a tin shack on the side of the hill next to the school where we worked. But back in the United States, we need homes with 1,000 square feet per person. A man at our bus stop in Guatemala sold orange juice for a living to support him and his young son. But back home, we need yearly, sometimes quarterly, vacations. A woman once knocked on our door for bread and money for medicine. But a $30 million Mormon temple was built mere miles from our apartment. It's here in the United States, too. 3 weeks ago, I came home from the grocery store to find a man eating discarded fast food from my neighbor's garbage can. It was the day before my book released into the world, a novel. How dare we write novels? How dare we paint rooms? Is it all excess? Frivolous? This is perhaps the tension that I think about the most in regard to my faith. On the one hand, we live in a world with both excess and suffering. And as followers of Jesus, we're told not to ignore that. He said not to send a naked neighbor away with mere hopes if we have an actual coat to cover him with, James chapter 2. He warned us to guard ourselves against all type of greed, Luke 12. He highlighted the peace that comes with contentment, Philippians 4 and 1 Timothy 6. And she continues. On the other hand, God's first act of love for this world was to create it. And what he created wasn't a colorless, artless place, but, wait for it, a garden. I imagine the first visual arts of that garden, flowers, fruits, vibrant and luscious. I imagine the first arts of work and movement, the joy of sweating under the sun with my hands in the dirt, ending the day fully satisfied with my work instead of anxious from the toil. I imagine reaching the seventh day and experiencing the art of being completely at rest in mind, body, and soul in the rich depths of God's love. It's all a reminder that the world God envisioned went beyond food and clothes. Well, that was long, and this is Jay again. I, too, like Kendra, often wonder about the great chasm that seems to exist between those of us who are blessed with relative security and our needs being met, and yes, beyond our needs, and those who struggle to find an overpass to sleep under at night, or make a daily trip to the Lord's diner for a meal, all the while suffering both physically and mentally. I also know that just throwing money at a problem won't necessarily fix it. I know of people for whom $50,000 in cash wouldn't fix their issues. And I certainly don't have that kind of money. What can I do? How can I help meet the incredible need that is, as we say, out there? And what's my responsibility as a child of God to these people? Just how far does loving one's neighbor go? Am I guilty of sending a naked neighbor away with mere hopes if I have an actual coat to cover him? And as Kendra said, Jesus warned us to guard ourselves against all kinds of greed, and he highlighted the peace that comes with contentment. Just what does Jesus expect of me? Well, I'm not going to answer that question for you. I'm struggling to find an answer for myself, and I may never find one in this life that completely satisfies. The tension that exists between want and plenty is one each of us must wrestle with as we strive to become more and more like our Savior and Lord. May God bless you as you go forward in tension from this day.